Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Social Sciences, SOSS, Postgraduate Diploma in Disaster Risk Reduction and Management, PGDDRRM, MPA 031 Physical Geography, Block 1 Geomorphic Processes, Unit 3 Endogenetic Forces, 3.0 Objectives. After studying this unit, you should be able to define and classify endogenetic forces, differentiate between epirogenic and orogenic movements, describe the nature and types of volcanoes and their distribution, and explain the origin, magnitude, and intensity of earthquakes. 3.1 Introduction. In Units 1 and 2 of this block, you have learnt about the Earth's interior, its different layers and materials of the Earth. You now know the movement of plates, formation of mountains, creation and destruction of the ocean bottom. These are happening due to certain forces. Those forces which are getting generated from below the surface of the earth are known as endogenetic forces. Endogenic forces are responsible for various changes on the earth's surface. Although the endogenetic forces are active inside the earth, some of its consequences are observed on the Earth's surface. For example, broad, topographical features of the Earth such as mountains, plateaus, ocean, bottom, etc., are formed due to endogenetic forces. It is, therefore, important for you to learn about the endogenetic forces. In section 3.2 of this unit, you will study how endogenetic forces are generated from beneath the Earth's surface and cause to relative movements of Earth's lithospheric segments. You will also study the classification of endogenic force into two types, namely slow, diastrophic, and sudden. In Sec 3.3, you will learn the concept of diastrophic forces are generated from deep interior. In Sec 3.4 and 3.5, you will study the origin of sudden forces and their impacts on Earth's surface. They are basically volcanism and earthquakes. Volcanism is dealt with respect to its types and distribution. The dealing of earthquake is concerned with its occurrence, generated waves, its magnitudes and intensity. The Earth's relief and topography is created by a balance between the endogenic and exogenic forces caused by both endogenetic forces and exogenetic processes. Exogenetic processes originate in the Earth's atmosphere and continuously alter the major relief features created by endogenetic forces. You will study about exogenetic forces, processes in Unit 4 of this block. 3.2 Endogenetic forces, basics and classification. We generally observe numerous topographical features such as mountains, plateau, plains, etc. on the Earth's surface. Would you like to know how did they come into existence? Did these features exist when the planet Earth was formed, or did they come into existence later? Yes. These topographic features have evolved over time and are caused due to forces active from Earth's interior. These forces are called endogenetic forces. The endogenetic forces are responsible for changes on the Earth's topography. The visible changes are creation of new surface feature, destruction of existing. These forces produce various types of irregularities on the surface of the Earth in the form of mountains, ridges, plateaus, valleys and plains, ocean bottom, etc. In addition, volcanic activity and earthquake events are also some of the expressions of endogenetic forces. Abruptly happening causes are called sudden forces. As the name suggests, the sudden forces arise due to sudden movements. The cause of endogenetic force is high heat of the interior as well as heat generated by disintegration of radioactive minerals in the upper layer of the Earth. The variation in temperature in different depths of the Earth's interior may cause contraction and expansion of rocks. In the present unit, our major concern will be to discuss the effect of endogenetic forces on shaping the Earth's topography. A diagrammatic presentation of the classification of endogenetic forces is given in Fig. 3.1. Fig. 3.1. Major types of endogenetic forces and their consequences in the Earth's crust. Look at the screen. You have studied that the plates, Unit 2, are mobile and they are always on move. You also have understood that alpine mountains are very young and their formation started around 65 to 70 million years ago. These mountains are still rising. But have you ever thought about the process by which they have been created? You might have yourself felt the earthquakes or have read about the volcanoes, as well as you might have watched any videos on your television related to them. Yes, it happens due to endogenic forces. Out of them, earthquakes or volcanism are happening suddenly, but the rise of height of the Himalayas of shifting of plates are very slow to recognize in a very short time span. To understand the importance and consequences of these endogenetic forces, you should study the following sections. Epeirogeny means mainland. The term introduced by Clarence Dutto, an American geologist, in 1890 from the Greek epeiros. 3.3. Diastrophic forces. You have already learnt that the diastrophic forces originate from inside the surface. They include both vertical and horizontal movements. These operate very slowly and are responsible for the formation of major landforms such as mountains, plateaus, plains, etc. Diastrophic forces can be classified into two types: A. Epeirogenic movements and B. Orogenic movements. Let us learn about them. 3.3.1. Epeirogenic movements. Due to epeirogenic movements, upliftment and subsidence of continental masses are observed. It is known as both horizontal and vertical forces operating from the interior. Vertical force can be seen in two ways: upward or downward. Its direction of operation is along the radius of the Earth from center to the surface of the Earth. When it is in upward direction, upliftment is resulted, while in downward operation results into pulling down of the surface, hence, subsidence is seen. Therefore, they are also known as upwarping or downwarping, respectively. It happens without any significant folding or faulting. Epeirogenic movements are also known as continent building movements as they affect the large-scale land masses. The upliftment of a coastal land is called emergence as the land comes out from the oceanic water body. In the same way, when the coastal area is being pulled down and ocean water occupy the area, it is called submergence. Some important examples of upliftment emergence are Deccan Plateau, upliftment of submerged coastal Florida and West Coast Islands. Due to subsidence, Andaman and Nicobar Islands are separated from Arakan coast. The same is seen in Run of Kutch and near Dwarka. 3.3.2. Orogenic movements. You must have seen any mountain with moderate to steep slope. Have you ever imagined that how it was formed? Can such a high mountain be made by upward movement or vertical force? No, that is not possible. The mechanism of mountain formation is different than the vertical upliftment. You have already studied about the mountain building and plate tectonics in Unit 2 of the block. According to plate tectonics theory, the uppermost solid, mantle and crust, also known as the lithosphere, is broken into several segments. These segments are called lithospheric or tectonic plates. They is in constant motion with respect to one another. Due to this activity, major interactions take place along the plate boundaries or margins. Their movements result into the formation of mountain. Plates move in relation to each other in three different ways, such as divergent, the plates move away from one another; convergent, plates move towards each other; and transform, the plates slide past one another. The mountain building activity takes place particularly in the convergent boundary between two plates. Orogenic movements occur mainly along the convergent plate boundaries or plate margins. Convergence produces intense pressure and results into folding and faulting. These horizontal forces act in three ways. I. Towards each other. 2. Opposite to one another. And 3. Parallel to each other. The force operates face to face or towards each other are called compressional forces or convergent force. You may be aware that the rocks are squeezed or crushed when compressional force applies. On the other hand, the forces act on the rock in opposite direction leading to rupturing of the rock. These forces are called tensional force or divergent force. Under shearing forces, the stresses act parallel to each other but in opposite directions. These forces can produce transform faults. Tensional and shearing forces create faults or fractures. If there is compression on one end, there may be tension on the other end. Hence, it is understood that folding and faulting often act together, but along different location. Stress is a force that acts on a body unevenly in all directions referred to as differential stress. There are three types of differential stress including tensional, compressional and shear. A. Folding. As you know that several lithospheric plates constitute the Earth's surface and plates are in motion. When two continents collide, the intervening, sedimentary rocks of continental margins come under strong forces of compression. To understand the formation of folds, refer to Figure 3.2. The horizontal strata is bent or curved as a result of compression. The wave-like undulations generated horizontally are called anticlines, upfold or crest, and synclines, downfold or trough. The size and shape of folds depend upon various factors such as the nature of rocks, intensity, and direction of compressive forces, etc. Folds in some rock layers measured from a few centimeters to kilometers. They could be E-tight or broad, symmetrical or asymmetrical. Most of the mountain systems exhibit some degree of folding. We could find large-scale folding structures in the mountains of Appalachian and Himalayas, etc. Look at the screen, Fig. 3.2. Folds formation due to compressional forces. Now you need to understand the terminologies associated with folds. Have A. Look at the diagram in Figure 3.3. The two sides or flanks of folds are called limbs. The central line between the limbs, along the crest of anticline or trough of syncline is termed as the axis of fold. An imaginary plane drawn between the limbs is called fold axis. Two limbs form a fold. A plane dividing the fold from its crest to the center below is called the axial plane. If the axis is inclined from the horizontal, the fold is said to plunge. If the axial plane is vertical and the limbs are inclined with similar slope, the fold is termed as symmetrical. If the two limbs are inclined with different angles with dissimilar length, it is termed as asymmetrical. The point at the fold's maximum degree of curvature is known as the fold hinge point. A hinge line connects hinge points in three dimensions. Look at the screen, Fig. 3.3. Basic components of a fold. The important types of folds are illustrated in Figure 3.4. The compressive equal pressure from both sides with moderate intensity results into symmetrical or simple or open folds. These are very rarely found. Few examples of these folds are Jura Mountains of France and Switzerland. Asymmetrical folds are formed when both the limbs are unequal and irregular with different angles of inclination. One limb may be larger, with moderate inclination, and the other shorter with steep inclination. An overturned fold is formed when the axial plane is inclined to such a limit that the strata of the limb are overturned. When the axis of the fold is essentially horizontal and both limbs are almost parallel to each other, recumbent folds are formed. It happens when the intensity of compression over both the limbs of fold may be parallel as well as horizontal. With further increase in pressure, the recumbent folds may be sliced or sheared, in which the slices of rock moves over the underlying rock on flat surfaces of low inclination is called as overthrust faults. The plane of shearing is a thrust plane and the structure is overthrust fold. This kind of thrust is called nappe, a fold detached and thrown further. Literally speaking, nappe is not a fold, but it is a fault caused by excessive pressure. It is a French word which means cover sheet or tablecloth. The examples of nappesre found in European Alps, b. faulting and thrusting. You have studied about the basic information on folds and their types. As you know, folding is bending of rock layers. It occurs due to compressional force. Fault is a fracture in the crustal rock. It is formed mainly due to tensional forces created by the endogenetic forces. The plane along which the rock blocks are displaced is called fault plane. Faults are formed when rocks on both sides of the plane have moved relative to each other. Due to tensional forces, rock layers are dislocated. The vertical displacement of rock blocks may take place up to several hundred meters and horizontal displacement may extend up to several kilometers. Watch the video related to fold and faults from https://www.youtube.com. Watch V is equal to Rgen to ZJWPQK. Detailed study of faults helps geoscientists to understand how the tectonic plates move relative to each other. The four basic types of faults are classified based on the angle of inclination and the direction of displacement. Fig. 3.5. If the displacement is up or down along the fault plane, it is called a dip-slip fault. A strike-slip fault is formed when the displacement is parallel and horizontal to the fault line. When both displacements dip-slip and strike-slip are combined, it is said to be oblique slip faults. Both shifting blocks of the fault are termed as the walls. The separating surface is called fault plane or fault scarp. The upper block is termed as hanging wall, whereas the lower one is footwall. Fig. 3.5. Faults formation mainly due to tensional forces. Look at the screen. According to the horizontal shrinking or enlarging space, faults are divided into two, normal and reverse. A normal fault is created when tensional force is in operation. Due to tension, when fault is created, there is elongation or extension of the surface. Hence, the direction of the movement is vertical. As a result, one side is either pulled up or pulled down. It is termed as upthrown or downthrown relative to each other. Normal faults may occur in multiples and parallel in. It is known as step-like fault. A reverse fault is created when compressional force is in operation. Due to compression, the surface shrinks or gets reduced. In reverse fault, the hanging wall moves up relative to the footwall. It must be remembered that both normal and reverse faults form fault scarps. These scarps are exposed at the margins of uplifted reverse fault care or down-drifted normal fault case blocks. Lateral or strike-slip faults are formed when the faulted rock blocks are displaced horizontally with no fault scarp. Only a thin fault line is traceable across the surface. These are also named as shear faults, transcurrent faults, transform faults, or wrench faults. Some important examples are the Alpine Fault in New Zealand, the Great Glen Fault in Scotland, and the Lochilhama Fault or the Alhama de Murica Fault in Spain. Thrust and reverse faults are generally observed in subduction and convergent plate boundaries. A graben or rift valley is formed when a central faulted block is thrown downward between two normal faults. A narrow faulted block is thrown upward between two normal faults is called a host. Topographically, hosts are like plateaus or flat-topped mountains with steep and straight faulted sides. A graben is a valley or depression trench-like structure bordered by steep and parallel walls. Best examples of the host are Shillong Plateau in India and the Rhine Graben, East African Rift Valley, which stretches for 600 kilometers in length and 70 kilometers in width. In this section, so far, you have learnt about two forces, epeirogenic and orogenic. Due to these forces, how folds and falls are formed is also known to by now. In the following sections and subsections, you will learn about the sudden forces. 3.4 Volcanism. Briefly, you have already studied about volcanism in Unit 2 of this block. You know it well that it happens suddenly and originates from the Earth's interior. Volcanism is one of the endogenetic processes capable of rendering sudden and massive changes in the surface features of the Earth. It represents processes and features related to the movement and solidification of magma, both within the crust and on the surface. Surface processes include the formation of volcanoes. Volcanism can be observed mainly in the interiors of oceanic plates. The activity of molten magma is defined as extrusive volcanism, whereas magma solidifying below the surface is called intrusive volcanism or plutonic activity. Volcanic materials can be divided into two main groups: A. Pyroclastic materials, for example, hot ash, gases, water vapor and small fragments of rocks, lapilli, tephra, pumice, scoria, etc. B. Lava flow materials, for example, lava and lava flow. Volcanic activity is considered to be one of the most catastrophic phenomena. There are roughly 700 potential volcanoes identified, out of which approximately 50 volcanoes erupt with risk. Some of known catastrophic historical eruptions were at Vesuvius, 79 AD, Tanbara, 1815, Mount Pelée, 1902, Mount St. Helens, 1980, Nevadorel Ruiz, 1985, and Pintubo, 1991. Researchers show that 3/4 of all volcanic activity is underwater activity, mainly concentrated along mid-oceanic ridges. A volcano is a deep vent, or opening or passage, usually connecting the interior, through which heated materials consisting of gases, ash, water, vapor, and molten rocks are ejected. All such items reach to the Earth's surface from the Earth's interior. You can have a glance on TN, an idealized diagram of a volcano from Fig. 3.6. The ejection of the heated materials from a volcano through the vent is called eruption. Magma extruded onto the Earth's surface is referred to as lava. The magma consists of molten rock. Apart from liquefied rock material, other substances like heated liquid, water vapor, gases, etc. are also ejected. The materials coming out from the volcano gets accumulated in the vicinity. The crater is created at the top of the cone as funnel-shaped depression. The base of the crater is connected with the interior part of the Earth by volcanic pipe through which the lava rises to the top. Look at the screen. Fig. 3.6. Various features of volcano. 3.4.1 Types of volcanoes. There is a wide range of variations in the form of volcanic eruptions and their periodicity. The nature of volcanic eruption, whether explosive or quiet, depends upon the type of magma and its viscosity. On the basis of the viscosity of magma and passage of volcanic eruptions, volcanoes are categorized into two types: A. Central or explosive eruption, and B. Fissure or quiet eruption. Central eruption ejects pyroclastic materials like lava and rock fragments, ashes and dust. In fissure eruption, basaltic lava is expelled from the interior. Since basaltic lava is rich in metallic content, due to which it is less viscous, it erupts very easily without any blasting effect. It requires less pressure Lava is spread over large area easily and quickly. Therefore, plateau-type feature is created. The divergent plate boundary is associated with this type of volcanic eruptions. Types of volcanic eruptions, as mentioned above, volcanoes are of two types: central and fissure on the basis of the shape of the passage as well as the viscosity of the magma. Erupted materials get accumulated around the volcanic vent either in circular or linear shape. In general, the nature and intensity of the eruption may vary based on the characteristics of ejected substances. In central vent type of eruptions, magma is relatively viscous, gases are more and hence pressure needs greater. Lava is made up of more silica content and are more explosive. This is known as acidic lava. Basic lava is relatively more fluid. It has more metallic content. It is called mafic lava or basaltic lava. If the lava is more fluid, it erupts quietly and lacks violent explosion. On the basis of the viscosity of magma, volcanoes may be subdivided into several types. Some important among them are islandic Hawaiian, Strombolian, Vulcanian, Pilean and Plinian. They are shown in Fig. 3.7. Icelandic type. This type of volcano is categorized into fissure eruption. The lava ejected in this type is basaltic in nature and is more fluid. Hence, the lava is spread over a large area and plateau type feature is created. Hawaiian type. Hawaiian type of volcano is effusive and quiet eruptions. They can also feed much larger lava flows through time. Sometimes fountains of highly fluid, basaltic spray rise up with the gases. These eruptions commonly occur in Hawaii Islands and hence named as Hawaiian type. Examples of these eruptions are Kloaiki, 1959, in Hawaii Island and Krafla, 1975-83, in Iceland, Strombolian type. These are the most picturesque volcanic styles. It is named after volcano formed on Stromboli Island in the Mediterranean Sea. It is characterized by relatively mild explosion. It ejects liquid lava, fragmented materials like pumice, scoria, and bombs of hot materials. These eruptions are regular, rhythmic in intervals varying from few minutes to about an hour. The ejected material in this type of volcanoes reaches to a height of hundreds meters to about a kilometers. Strombolian eruption in the Mediterranean looks somewhat like an energetic Roman candle firework. When it is viewed at night, looks like the lighthouse of the Mediterranean. Krakatoa volcanic eruption, 1883. Krakatoa is a volcanic island in Indonesia. It lies along Indo-Australian and Eurasian convergent boundary. The eruption on 26 August 1883 was the most catastrophic in the human history. About two-thirds of the island was blown away by the massive volcanic blast. You may imagine the power it has generated by the fact that ejected minute substances reached to a height of nearly 80 kilometers in the sky. Its sound of volcanic explosion was heard about 3,500 kilometers away in Australia. The sunset in the different parts of the globe were colored by fine volcanic dust for many months afterward. Read in detail from https://www.britannica.com/place/Krakatoa. Right parenthesis. Interesting facts. Most volcanoes are 10,000 to 100,000 years old and expected that 10,000 more volcanoes are situated in the ocean. The oldest volcano is Metricton, Etna, Sicily, in Italy, that is about 350,000 years old. Indonesia has a greater number of volcanoes in the world, and one of the volcanoes, Merapi, means mountain of fire, erupted recently in January 1994. Lucky volcano in Iceland erupted in 1783 and lava flow was stretched about 65 kilometers. Stromboli has been known to be erupting for more than 2000 years. Volcanoes emit gases such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen chloride, and hydrogen fluoride. Look at the screen, Fig. 3.7. Different types of volcanic eruptions. Vulcanian type. Vulcanian type was named after eruption on volcano in the Aeolian Islands, in the Mediterranean Sea. This type of eruptions are more explosive due to more viscous magma in the interior and lava on the surface. Viscous lava gets solidified quickly and seals the mouth of the crater in between two eruptions. Due to this obstruction, the violent pressure of gases blasts the plugged mouth crater. In this process, much larger amount of gas, ash, dust, lava and rock fragments are emitted in greater quantity and intensity than their Strombolian type counterparts. Pilean type. This type of volcanic eruption is associated with explosive outbursts, pyroclastic magma, dense mixtures of rock fragments and gas are its main constituents. It occurs with greater intensity than Vulcanian and Strombolian. The lava mainly comes out with greater force with larger quantity of gases. When greater pressure is generated in the interior, volcanic explosion occurs with immense blasting effect. Ashes and gases form thick mushroom-shaped clouds. The clouds can rise to greater heights in the sky. Its name is assigned, so, due to destructive eruption PF Mount Pelee on the Caribbean islands, Plinian type. Plinian type is the most violent and destructive of all volcanic eruptions. It produces great column of gases and minute fragments climbing into stratosphere and creates a big umbrella of ejected materials. This type is named after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in Italy in the year 1979, with reference to 2024. It is 1945 years before, described by a historian named Pliny. These are highly explosive and eject highly viscous lava. The emitted viscous lava forms a dome in the volcano's crater. Frequency of eruption-type volcanoes. You have studied the classification of volcanoes based on the viscosity of lava and shape of the volcanic passage. Let us now know about their types based on their frequency. On the frequency of eruption, volcanoes are divided into three types, namely active, dormant, and extinct. Active volcanoes are those which erupted recently and have chance to erupt in near future. The volcanoes are termed dormant when the eruption was seen long time back, but there is possibility that it may erupt. Extinct volcanoes are those which does not have any chance to erupt. 3.4.2 Distribution of volcanoes. You have studied plate tectonics and plate boundaries in Unit 2 of this block. Have you tried to observe that the volcanoes are highly concentrated along with plate boundaries? At present, more than 1,500 active volcanoes are distributed over the globe. It has been observed that volcanic activity is strictly confined to certain limited strips of the world. These are mostly found on the marginal parts of the continents and in the littoral zones of oceans and seas. Volcanic activity is mainly associated with plate boundaries. Fig. 3.8. Examples: active volcanoes, Mauna Loa, Hawaii Islands, Etna, Sicily, Vesuvius, Italy, Pintubo Mayon, Philippines. Cotopaxi volcano in Ecuador, the world's highest active volcano, 19,600 feet high. Dormant volcanoes, Fujiyama, Japan, and Krakatoa, Indonesia. Extinct volcanoes, Pope Mountains, Myanmar, Metricton, Kilimanjaro, Africa, and also found in Mauritius and Malagasy. Look at the screen, Fig. 3.8. Distribution of volcanoes and earthquakes along the plate boundaries. Volcanoes are mainly distributed along plate boundaries. It is apparent from the Fig. 3.8 that the most notable area of volcanism in the world is around the margin of the Pacific Ocean. It is known as Ring of Fire or Circumpacific belt. This zone encompasses more than 75% of the volcanoes of the world. It is estimated that the about 80% volcanoes are concentrated along convergent plate boundaries, 15% are on the divergent plate boundaries, and only 5% are found on intraplate. There are 5 distinct zones of the distribution of volcanoes in the world. They are I. Around the Pacific Ring of Fire, the largest number of volcanoes are concentrated in this region. 2. Along the mid-oceanic ridges, most of the quiet volcanoes are found in this zone from where plates are drifting apart. 3. Mediterranean convergent boundary in this belt. Some well-known volcanoes are found where complex tectonic boundaries are there. 4. In the African Rift Valley geologically, it is a new zone where volcanoes are observed. At hotspots, these types of volcanoes is not associated with any plate boundaries but are explained by local existing condition for volcanic activities. 3.5 Earthquakes. As we know, large number of earthquakes occurs every year across the world. Some of them bring excessively destructive effects on human life, property, and environment. Hence, it is essential to have an idea about the earthquake. Earthquakes may last only for a few seconds to a few minutes. They can occur at any time. Simply, the earthquake is the passage of vibrations which gets generated in the Earth's interior due to the sudden movement of disturbance. According to Strahler and Strahler, an earthquake is a motion of the ground surface ranging from a faint tremor to a wild motion capable of shaking buildings apart and causing gaping cracks to open up in the ground. It is a form of energy of wave motion transmitted through the surface layer of the Earth in widening circles from a particular point. This point is called focus, which is the source for releasing the sudden energy. Let us study in detail about it. 3.5.1 How earthquakes occur. Earthquakes are caused by volcanic explosions or by sudden displacements of rocks in fault zone or due to volcanic activities. Hence, they could be of two types: volcanic and tectonic. Volcanic earthquakes are caused due to volcanic eruptions. When the magma is forced to come out from the interior, it causes tremor on the surface because of greater friction. Volcano-generated earthquakes are of lesser intensity due to the endogenetic forces. Rocks of the interior are in stress and strain. When they become greater than their tolerance, it leads to breaking of the rock's plates. It causes imbalance in the isostatic equilibrium. Disequilibrium is the cause an earthquake. Hence, some of the tectonically generated earthquakes are excessively devastative. So, starting from mild tremor to disastrous earthquakes is resulted by tectonic activities. That is why most of the earthquakes are highly associated with plate boundaries, because effects of plate movements are recorded there. Fig. 3.8 Apart from the plate boundaries, some earthquakes are also observed on intraplate. They are caused by local isostatic disequilibrium. 3.5.2 Earthquake waves. Generally, earthquakes originate from a few to several km deep below the Earth's surface. In order to understand an earthquake, refer Fig. 3.9. It makes you understand two terms: focus and epicenter. Most of the earthquakes are originating from plate boundaries of fault plane. The shift slide of the fault block is not a smooth one. They are jammed locked with each other. When they shift, it becomes jerky. Abrupt change in their position causes imbalance in isostatic adjustment, and earthquakes are the resultants. The point along a fault or plate boundary in the interior from where the earthquake is generating is known as focus. Immediately above it, on the surface, shortest possible distance, perpendicular, is termed as epicenter. The depth of focus from the epicenter, called as focal depth. It is an important parameter in determining the potential damage of an earthquake. The seismic waves radiate in all directions from focus and propagates. The shallower, deep earthquake causes greater damage than the deep focused. In former case, less deep-seated earthquake has the use its energy to jerk lesser amount of rock mass, while in later case, it requires to jerkuge mass. That is why less deep-seated earthquakes are more dangerous than the deeper-seated one. If the intensity is similar, earthquake measuring instrument is called seismograph. By the study of the recorded earthquakes, it is known that there are two types of waves generated. They are body waves and surface waves. These waves travel outward in widening circles, like the ripples produced when a rock is thrown into calm lake water. It decreases with increasing distance from the drop of the stone epicenter. You can understand it very well by this experiment. Take a pebble and throw it into a calm water of a pond. You can visualize ripples getting generated on the pond water. If you focus on the ripples, you can observe how they are moving out in radial pattern. They will travel outward in all directions, gradually losing energy from the point of the origin where pebble is dropped. Seismic waves also travel in the same manner, with intense energy from the focus and gradually losing energy with distances. Body waves, as the term itself is explanatory, travel from the body Earth's interior. They are primary, P, and secondary, S, waves. Surface or long, L, waves travel from the top layer surface of the Earth. P wave is the fastest of all seismic waves, and they arrive first and are recorded on the seismograph. They can move through all medium of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. They are primarily push and pull waves. These are also known as compressional or longitudinal waves. They are just like immersing a nail in the wall by using hammer, or like sound waves. The particles move in back and forth direction. For details about seismic waves, you have already studied in Unit 1 of this block. You may refer back for recapitulation. Secondary waves are also body waves which travel in the interior. It is slower in velocity in comparison to P waves. That is why it is recorded after P waves on seismograph. It travels only in the solid matter, and once liquid or gases come in its way, it is ceased to travel further. These are transverse or shear waves, in which the motion of particle is at right angle to the direction of propagation. S waves can pass only through solid rock and move rock particles up and down, or side to side perpendicular to the direction of the wave travels. Surface waves are two types: Love waves and Rayleigh waves. Love is faster surface wave in comparison to Rayleigh and moves the ground from side to side in horizontal motion. Rayleigh waves are relatively slower and move the ground up and down and side to side. It rolls along the ground just like a wave roll across the ocean or lake. Both surface waves are slower than the body waves. They arrive after body waves because of the complexity of their paths through crustal layers and slower velocity. These waves are responsible for greater damage and destruction. How does earthquake affect the people? You know, thousands of earthquakes occur around the globe each year. Most of them are recorded by instruments and not felt by human beings. They are not affecting to us, but those which are intense, they affect us the most. Earthquakes of larger magnitude and high intensity release greater energy. They are the cause of complete devastation. Intense ground shaking, landslides, surface faulting, avalanches, tsunamis, flash floods, etc., may trigger and destroy everything. Most of the damages are to the existing infrastructures like roads, bridges, railways, ports, airports, and water supply, waste scattering, electric power, telecommunication lines, natural gas and liquid fuels, etc. 3.5.3 magnitude and intensity of earthquake. Now, we know that the seismic waves reach the epicenter first, and the areas closer to the epicenter experience maximum intensity. Therefore, it is important to study how to measure the size and destructiveness of an earthquake. The magnitude of an earthquake indicates the quantity of energy released by an earthquake at the source point. Charles F. Richter, 1900 to 1985, a leading seismologist, devised a rating scale of earthquake magnitude in 1935. It is popularly known as Richter scale. This scale is based on the amplitude of seismic waves. The stronger the earthquake, the stronger the seismic vibrations it causes. It consists of numbers that ranges from less than 1 to more than 9. Richter magnitude is determined from the logarithm to the base 10 of the amplitude recorded by a seismograph. It states that an increase of 1 in magnitude corresponds to a factor of 10 increases in the amplitude of ground motion. For example, a magnitude of 6.0 earthquake causes 10 times larger shaking than that of a magnitude of 5.0 earthquake. You may notice in Table 3.1 that magnitudes 8 or above are coded as great earthquakes. Magnitude ranging between 8 and 8.9 earthquake occurs once in a year on an average for the whole planet. Table 3.1 explains various magnitudes on Richter scale and their effects during an earthquake. The U.S. Geological Survey is a responsible institution for measuring and assessing the earthquakes across the world. You may like to read more about earthquakes at http://earthquake.usgs.gov earthquakes. Now you might have understood the scale of magnitude of an earthquake. The earthquake intensity is a qualitative measure of the actual shaking at a particular location during an earthquake. It can be determined from the reported effects of the tremor on human beings, furniture, buildings, and geological structures, etc. Intensity varies from place to place within the affected region. If it is highly populated area, it can inflict more causalities and huge potential damages, whereas it can affect the remote areas insignificantly with the same magnitude of earthquake. In order to study the intensity of an earthquake, the scale was developed by the Italian seismologist Mercalli in 1902. Later on, it was modified by Harry Wood and Frank Newman in 1931. The modified Mercalli scale consists of 12 increasing levels of intensity, from Roman numeral I to 12. It illustrates the distribution of intensities that are ranging from imperceptible shaking to catastrophic destruction. Table 3.2. The occurrence of a great earthquake in the ocean, far away from the habitat, may not directly cause more damage to cities, dams, and highways because the shake energy will diminish with travel long distance. But of course, effects of tsunami will definitely do some damage. On the other hand, a moderate magnitude earthquake with shallower, deep focus near densely populated region will do heavy damage in comparison to the deep focus with same magnitude. The measurement of destructive power of an earthquake is termed as its intensity. Table 3.1 Magnitude of an earthquake on Richter scale and its effects. Look at the screen. Table 3.2 Description of the levels of modified Mercalli intensity. Intensity, shaking description damage. I not felt except by a very few under, especially, favorable conditions. To weak felt only by a few persons at rest, especially, on upper floors of buildings. 3 weak felt quite noticeably indoors, especially on upper floors of buildings, but many people do not recognize it as an earthquake. Standing, motor cars may rock slightly, vibrations similar to the passing of a truck. 4 light during the day felt indoors by many, outdoors by few, at night, some awakened. Dishes, windows, doors disturbed, walls make cracking sound, sensation like heavy truck, striking building, standing motor cars rocks, noticeably, we moderate felt by nearly everyone, many are vacant, some dishes, windows broken, unstable, objects overturned, pendulum clocks may stop, 6 strong felt by all, many frightened, some heavy, furniture moves, few instances of fallen, plaster, slide damage, 7 very strong, everybody runs outdoor, damage negligible, in buildings of good design and construction, slight to moderate in well-built ordinary structures, considerable damage in poorly built or badly designed structures, some chimneys broken. 8 severe slide damage in specially designed structures, considerable damage in ordinary, substantial buildings with partial collapse, great damage in poorly built structures, fall of chimneys, factory stacks, columns, monuments, walls, heavy furniture, overturns, 9 violent considerable damage in specially designed structures, well-designed frame, structures thrown out of plumb, buildings, shifted off foundations, ground cracks, conspicuously. Extreme some well-built wooden structures gets destroyed, most masonry and frame structures destroys with foundations, damage to transportation network. 11 extreme few structures remain standing, bridges destroys, fractures in ground, underground, pipelines disturbed. Earth slumps and land slips, great damage of transportation network.